Hi everybody, PJ back, and today we are talking about destiny versus free will. Now, in Gated Choice, you read my particular theory on how destiny actually works, but there's still a lot of confusion about how does it actually work. I read everything about it, and I still don't necessarily understand every inch of it. So we're going to be talking about what I call my destiny theory on how it actually all works, and if there is still free will left in the world, or is everything pre-planned? So one of the better ways to look at this is rather to understand what or how the concept of free will and the concept of destiny can coexist together. So the first thing we're going to do is delete this against and rather look at free will as an opportunity to control destiny rather than anything else. Let's define a life. You see, if we look at life from the lens of how I believe the world cycles, and we look at one giant circle. Now, in a regular, typical understanding of life, we look at life in a linear way, 0 to 100 years, or however long you can make it, and then basically you're dead. In the way I look at life is basically a continuity, an opportunity to start and finish at the exact same place. What matters the most, however, are the experiences you've accumulated within the destiny theory. What does this all mean? So let's assume you start your life here. This is about a quarter of your life. This is about the middle of your life. And this is the fourth quadrant of your life. Every single human has a predetermined idea of the personality they wish to overcome before their entrance into a vessel being a body. We predetermine the personality we enter based on the zodiac and enter that personality, which becomes a vessel for the 100 years, which we assume is 100 years of existence, right? And our goal in these 100 years is to basically have an opportunity to basically overcome this personality we're here to learn. However, in the time-space continuum, 100 years equals nothing more than 5 minutes. So while our soul is technically experiencing 5 minutes of its existence without the constraint of time, our body is undergoing a 100-year experience of that 5 minutes. The whole point here is that as you undertake your life, your job is to basically try to undergo all these events through life and stay as close as you can to your destiny theory. And at times through life, you'll veer off course into your shadow, right? And then come back closer into your light, but too much, and back and forth and back and forth. And the point is that as long as you can navigate this line, you would ultimately end up here having overcome that personality. But if you end up going too far from the line, then you obviously would have lost the idea or the reason why you entered your destiny to begin with. At which point you have what we call markers. Markers are exit points you've given yourself, maybe at this stage, and this stage, that you've told yourself, if I've gone too far before I've reached this stage, basically kill me off so I can come back and restart before I waste a 100-year opportunity to basically learn something for 5 minutes. Where does destiny and free will happen? If you've predetermined your destiny, then free will takes place in basically all of these marker or choices that you make along the way that allow you to stay true to your destiny. That is why free will comes in, because it is basically the mechanism to maneuver the destiny theory you have. In the space of the destiny circle, or should I say the destiny theory you've created, you have 3 core concepts to overcome: awareness, self-awareness, and consciousness. By the end of the experience here, you will retain the consciousness you've attained for the next cycle you go through. Now, the first stage of my existence here, which is the first quadrant here, basically is a state of awareness. Now, the state of awareness is basically me awakening and understanding that I exist. My second state is the state of self-awareness, which happens in the quadrant 15 to 30 and 30 here to 45. Now, in the first quadrant, in the concept of self-awareness, we have what we call our societal identity. We become a real member of society, and we still realize that by the age of 50, we've kind of determined, what do we want to do? We are in society, right? What are we? But at some point here, before this, the goal is to, before the markers, be able to get yourself to the next stage. So the next stage here is, I now need to discover my cosmic identity, which is your capacity to understand that you mean more than how people reward you, which is by the universal currency of money. And then comes the bridge. What is the bridge between society and life? Societal identity and life identity. And that bridge here is basically creativity. So creativity is what allows you to become the creator of your life, which gives meaning to your life. So after the mastery of that process, which is basically the half of your life, comes this final quadrant, which is a very difficult quadrant to master. And it's basically the idea of consciousness. Once you have given meaning to your cosmic identity, you start to realize, what is the cosmos? What is the difference between our existence here on Earth and an existence elsewhere? The mind and the body and the soul are basically 2 separate entities. And that is when you start to realize you're actually in a destiny theory, meaning you start to understand that your existence here is only part of the puzzle, and there's a greater existence based upon theological evolution here that you are not able to see. Our destiny and our ability to progress through these is really based upon the idea of everything in here is an experience. And one of the key things we have is that we don't realize, just like free will is our, like choice is basically our tool to navigate that, we start to realize between this final quadrant that there is something very important here, and it's bigger than choice. And it's that the intent for our destiny is what gives the intent to our free will, which is why your value system here is usually good or bad. In the second quadrant here, you're going to be looking at a right and wrong. And in this final quadrant that overlaps here, you're going to be looking at basically wisdom or deceit. And that is the key point to how destiny and free will coexist together and are driven ultimately by intent, but you have to discover intent by becoming conscious and understanding that free will is nothing more than the navigation system to allow you to experience 100 years of living in just 5 minutes worth of time.